Hi everyone! Welcome to English 2-in-1, boost your English and your mind. Here, you can achieve two goals at once, improve your English listening skills and gain general useful knowledge. Or you can just relax while you are walking, cooking or doing something. Today, you will dive into the mysterious world of Dorian Gray, a young man whose beauty becomes both a blessing and a curse. Through this chilling tale, based on the classic novel by Oscar Wilde, you will explore the themes of vanity, the consequences of living for pleasure, and the dark secrets that one might hide from the world. As Dorian makes a fateful wish to stay young forever while his portrait ages in his place, his life takes a sinister turn. Are you ready to uncover the tragic story of a man who sold his soul for eternal youth? Watch until the end, where we will explain new English words and phrases for you.
At the beginning of his rise, Dorian Gray was a simple young man, full of innocence and hope. His face shone, reflecting a purity that seemed untouched by sin or time. However, fate had prepared a different path for him, a path that would change him forever. It all began when a talented artist named Basil Hallward decided to paint his portrait. Basil admired Dorian, his beauty, and his freshness.
You have no idea what a blessing it is to be young and beautiful. Your beauty is an inspiration, Dorian. I have never seen anyone who embodies the ideal of youth like you do.
One day, as Dorian stood before his portrait, Lord Henry Wotton, Basil's friend, approached him with an idea that entered Dorian's mind like poison.
Beauty, my boy, is the only thing that matters. The world belongs to those who are young and beautiful. Life is short, and you must enjoy every moment of it while you still have your charm.
Dorian, enchanted by these words, realized that his youth and beauty were the most valuable gifts one could possess.
Oh, if only I could always stay as young as I am in this portrait!
He exclaimed, half-jokingly, but there was a hidden desire in his words that even he barely understood.
If the picture could grow old instead of me, I would give anything for it, even my soul.
These words were spoken, and it seemed as if the world had answered his wish. As time went on, Dorian became more and more immersed in a life full of pleasures and sins, guided by his new mentor, Lord Henry. Meanwhile, the portrait began to change, reflecting all his sins, the passage of time, and his moral decay. Dorian remained outwardly as beautiful as he had been on the day Basil finished the painting. But his heart was slowly filling with darkness.
Dorian, what has happened to you? You are not the same person you were before.
Basil said, noticing the changes in the young man's character.
You have become cold, cruel. Whereas the kind and bright young man I knew gone?
He could not understand why his friend had distanced himself, why his eyes no longer sparkled with the same purity as before. But Dorian only smirked in response. He knew that his secret was safe. One day, Dorian took Basil to the portrait to show him what he had done. The artist was horrified.
This is terrible. This portrait is something evil.
Basil exclaimed, realizing that his creation had become a witness to his friend's downfall.
How could you let your soul change like this? This is not just a painting, it's a mirror of your soul, and it has become hideous.
But Dorian could not allow anyone to discover his secret. In a fit of panic and rage, he killed Basil, destroying the last link to the person he once was.
No one will ever know. This will be our secret. This portrait is my curse and my gift. Let it keep everything I hide from the world.
However, the darkness that had consumed his soul grew heavier. Soon, Dorian realized that his wealth, beauty, and life full of pleasures did not bring him happiness. He felt haunted, even his reflection in the mirror seemed foreign.
What have I done?
He thought one night, looking at his reflection in the portrait, which had become ugly and horrifying.
My whole life is a lie. I lost myself chasing something that could never give me true happiness.
The inner despair drove him to take up a knife.
I must end this,
he said, raising the knife and stabbing the canvas, as if trying to destroy what had become the embodiment of his sins. But instead of destroying the portrait, he felt a sharp pain. When the servants, who had heard the scream, rushed into the room, they found an old and ugly man lying dead on the floor, a knife in his heart, his face twisted in agony. The portrait, hanging on the wall, was once again young and beautiful, just as Basil Hallward had painted it. The story of Dorian Gray became the tragedy of a man who sold his soul for eternal youth and beauty, only to discover that even the most valuable gifts could become a curse. This story shows that external beauty can hide inner decay, and that the pursuit of pleasure and the abandonment of moral principles leads only to destruction. Dorian Gray paid a high price for his desires, proving that nothing is more valuable than a pure soul.
Innocence is the state of being free from guilt or moral wrong, simplicity or naivety. Example, Dorian Gray was a simple young man, full of innocence and hope. Portrait is a painting, drawing, or photograph of a person, especially one depicting only the face or head and shoulders. Example, Basil Hallward decided to paint his portrait. Savoring means enjoying something completely, especially by dwelling on it. Example, he said, savoring every stroke that turned the canvas into a living picture. Enchanted means filled with great delight, charmed. Example, Dorian, enchanted by these words, realized that his youth and beauty were the most valuable gifts. Decay is the process of gradually becoming weaker or being destroyed by natural causes. Example, the portrait began to change, reflecting all his sins, the passage of time, and his moral decay. Moral means concerned with the principles of right and wrong behavior. Example, reflecting all his sins, the passage of time, and his moral decay. Distanced means becoming or making someone far away from someone else, especially in feelings or relationships. Example, he could not understand why his friend had distanced himself. Witness is a person who sees an event, typically a crime or accident, take place. Example, his creation had become a witness to his friend's downfall. Fit is a sudden and uncontrollable burst of emotion or activity. Example, in a fit of panic and rage, he killed Basil. Despair is the complete loss or absence of hope. Example, the inner despair drove him to take up a knife. Embodiment is a tangible or visible form of an idea, quality, or feeling. Example, trying to destroy what had become the embodiment of his sins. Twisted means forced out of its natural or proper shape, deformed. Example, a knife in his heart, his face twisted in agony.